Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious. So if you're looking for some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, I wanted Chinese, so I placed the order and Gary ran and picked it up for us. We got the sesame chicken combination, which came with fried rice and an egg roll. And then we got a small container of their pork lo mein, and we just split it. We shared a little bit of everything, and that was our dinner that night. For dinner the next night, I made lasagna, but I made it a different way than how I normally do, which I'll show you in a little bit. First, I wanted to make some homemade breadsticks, which I'd never made before. I will have the recipe that I used in the description box below for you. So in this little measuring cup here, I've got some warm milk. You want to make sure that the milk is about 100 to 110 degrees. If it's too cold, your yeast won't bloom. If it's too hot, it'll kill your yeast. So make sure you've got the temperature right in there. I'm going to add in some yeast, then some sugar, and the yeast feeds off the sugar. We're going to give that a little stir and then set that to the side for about 10 minutes. Meanwhile, in a stand mixer, you can also do this without a stand mixer. I'm going to add some all-purpose flour to the mixture. Next, I'm going to add a little bit more sugar. Don't worry, these aren't sweet at all. Now I'm going to add in some salt. Using my whisk attachment, I'm going to give that a really good whisk until it's well combined. Now, after that yeast is set for about 10 minutes, it will foam up just like this. If it is not foamy, toss it out, start over. Either, the yeast has went bad or your milk was too hot or too cold. So if you don't see it foamy, throw it out. Now, I've got my hook attachment on the mixer. I'm going to add in some melted butter along with a little more warm milk, and again, make sure it's between about 105 and 110 degrees. Now we're going to add in the yeast mixture, and I've got this on about medium speed. It just takes a couple minutes. You want to mix it until the dough forms a ball and it pulls away from the sides. Now I'm going to spray the bowl and the dough ball down with some cooking spray. Cover this with a towel, and you want to let this rest in a warm place for about an hour or until it doubles in size. After the dough has risen, I'm going to remove that clean towel and place my dough onto a clean work area. Now, the full recipe makes about 12 breadsticks, but I halved it, and so I was expecting about 5 or 6 breadsticks. You just want to separate your dough into little balls, and then you are going to roll them into long, basically snakes, about 8 inches long. And I just used my ruler to make sure that it was about 8 inches. I'm going to place these onto a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. And then we're going to cover this again with a cloth and let these rise until they're about double in size again, about an hour or so. This is what they look like when they were done. I popped these into a preheated oven. It was set at 425 degrees, and I baked them for about 8 to 10 minutes until they were cooked all the way through and golden brown. This is what they look like while they were done, and while the breadsticks were baking, I did melt some butter, so I'm going to brush that over the breadsticks. And then in this little bowl here, I have combined some salt, garlic powder, and Italian seasoning. And so I'm just going to sprinkle that over the breadsticks and then sprinkle over some grated Parmesan cheese, and then that's it. The breadsticks will be done. Now, these were not as, the recipe said they were copycat Olive Garden breadsticks. I don't feel like they were as light and airy as Olive Garden's breadsticks, but they were good. I would definitely make this recipe again. Now for the lasagna, I very, very loosely followed a recipe. I really just took the bechamel sauce from it, but I'll have it linked in the description box below for you. In this skillet, I've got a little bit of olive oil and just a little bit of butter. I just added the tiny pat of butter because I had it left from the breadsticks. I am using some ground turkey. You could use ground beef, ground pork, veal. You could do a combination. You could do Italian sausage, whatever you like. Just make sure you cook the meat until it is completely brown all the way. Depending on what type of meat you use, you may need to drain off the meat. I did season the turkey with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then once the turkey's brown, I'm going to add in some minced onion and cook that until the onion is translucent, and then add in a little minced garlic. You can use a can of crushed tomatoes if you want, or your favorite jarred sauce. I've been liking this ragu kettle. It reminds me of Rayo's in the fact that it only has a handful of ingredients, none of the weird added stuff, but it's a lot cheaper than the Rayo's. So once I've added that in, I'm going to add a little bit of water to the jar, give it a shake, add that, and then I'm going to season this up a little. You can use whatever seasonings you want. I'm going to do some salt, pepper, garlic powder, Italian seasoning, and then shield your eyes if you're easily offended. I'm going to add in a little pinch of sugar. I know, not authentic, but I didn't claim this was. If you don't want to add sugar, don't add sugar. So I'm going to give that a really good stir, and then I simmered that for about 10 minutes. And final step, I decided to toss in some fresh herbs just from my little herb garden. I did some fresh parsley, basil, and oregano. So once I've stirred those herbs in, I'm going to set that to the side. Now, this next step is what makes it a new to me lasagna. Is I normally use either ricotta or cottage cheese when I'm layering the lasagna. This recipe called for a bechamel sauce, so I wanted to give it a try. In this little sauce pot here, I've got some butter. This is on medium heat. I'm going to cook the butter until it's melted, whisk in some flour, and then cook that for just a minute or two. Next, I'm going to slowly whisk in some milk. You just want to keep whisking. You will whisk the lumps out. And then I turn the heat to about medium high, and I just allowed that to cook for a couple minutes until it started to thicken slightly. Now we're going to add in just a smidge of ground nutmeg, followed by some salt and pepper, and then really that's it. Just give it a taste and adjust the seasonings to your taste. I'm going to let that sit to the side and just cool slightly. Now, I've got the oven preheating to 375 degrees. In this baking dish, this is a 9x9. I've sprayed it with some cooking spray. I'm going to add in a little bit of the meat sauce we made earlier. Next, I'm going to add in some lasagna noodles that I cooked, followed by that bechamel sauce. I'm then going to sprinkle this with some grated Parmesan cheese. You could do freshly grated, of course. I'm just using the stuff from the jar. I did freshly shred, though, my own mozzarella cheese. So I'm adding that, and then I messed up here. I was supposed to do a layer of red sauce. I forgot. So, you know, I mean, it doesn't matter. It all worked out in the end. But the recipe says you should end up with the white sauce on top. But, of course, because I, layered it wrong, I ended up with red sauce on top. But it doesn't matter. It all turns out in the end. Once I've got all my layers done, I ended with the cheese layer. You are going to place some aluminum foil on this. Now, you want to spray your aluminum foil with some cooking spray just so that it doesn't stick to the cheese. This is going to go into that preheated oven and bake for about 30 to 45 minutes or so. After that, you are going to remove your foil, and there was a little spot that I didn't get as well as I thought I did with the cooking spray, but that's all right. I'm going to pop this back into the oven for another 15 minutes uncovered, and then with lasagna, you absolutely want to let it set for maybe 15 or 20 minutes before you serve it. And this is what the lasagna looked like when it was done. I did a quick Caesar salad on the side, just some romaine lettuce, croutons, a little grated Parmesan cheese. I had some grape tomatoes I quartered up, and then I really love the Ken's creamy Caesar dressing. All right, here are the plates. So we've got the lasagna, the salad, the breadstick, and I did add some of the leftover chopped up herbs that I had added, the basil and parsley and the oregano. I added that as a little garnish on top, and this was so good, and the leftovers were even better. For dinner the next night, I made Thai pineapple chicken satay skewers. I know that's a mouthful, but this is so good. Now, I have shared this a few times before on my channel, so I'm just going to quickly walk you through it tonight. Check the recipe in the description box below for the exact measurements. I'm going to start out by making the marinade and sauce. So here's everything you need. I've got some ground ginger, garlic powder, pineapple juice, soy sauce, fish sauce, sriracha, brown sugar, some dried basil, pepper, a lime, and then I've got some chicken breasts here. You can use chicken tenders or chicken thighs. Just cube them. I forgot to cube them, so I marinated them whole, and then I went later and cubed them up. So here is everything mixed up together. You are going to add a 1/4 cup of this mixture to a Ziploc bag. Reserve the rest of it, okay? Because we're going to make that into the sauce later. Add a 1/4 cup of this mixture and then 3 tablespoons of olive oil to a Ziploc bag along with your cubed chicken, and then allow that to marinate for a few hours or overnight. When you're ready to cook this up, just skewer your chicken along with some pineapple. I'm using fresh today, but you can use canned. And if you're using wooden skewers, make sure you soak them. And I decided to cook this on my indoor grill. It was storming this night, just the little Cuisinart indoor grill. You can do it outside. You can cook these in the air fryer, the oven, however you want to cook them. Just make sure you cook your chicken until it's at least 165 degrees internal temperature. While the chicken is cooking, we're going to turn that reserved marinade into a sauce to serve on top of the chicken. So in this little saucepan, I've added that reserved marinade, and then we're gonna add in a cornstarch slurry. So we're just got some coconut milk here along with some cornstarch. Give that a really good whisk, and then add that to the mixture and mix it really well. You wanna place this on about medium-high heat. Bring this to a boil, and then you wanna boil this for about a minute. After a minute, remove this from the heat, and we're going to whisk in some crunchy peanut butter. If all you got is creamy, just use the creamy. You can add some chopped peanuts if you've got it. So you can add additional water or coconut milk to this if you feel like it needs it, and then give it a taste. Add sriracha, fresh lime juice, or brown sugar to taste. But once you've got it to the consistency and flavor that you like, we're gonna brush this on the chicken during like the last minute of cooking, and then save the rest of the sauce to pour over the chicken. And I'm gonna serve this over rice. And I was planning on just serving this over plain white steamed rice, but I found a recipe for like coconut pineapple rice, and I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds delicious. So I decided to do that instead. Here I've got some jasmine rice. I rinsed this in a fine mesh strainer with cold water until the water ran clear. I'm then going to add in some water and chicken bouillon powder. You can use chicken stock if you want to. I'm adding in some coconut milk, and I speak from experience, use unsweetened coconut milk. I'm going to add in a little bit of salt, give that a stir, bring this up to a boil. Once it's at a boil, you're going to cover it with a lid, reduce it to simmer, and simmer it for about 18 to 20 minutes until the water has evaporated and the rice, is cooked all the way through. Once it's there, turn it off. Move it away from the heat, take it off the burner, but leave that lid on. Don't remove the lid. And then let that sit for about 10 minutes. After that, we're gonna fluff that with a fork, and then we're gonna add in our goodies. I'm adding in some of the fresh pineapple that I have left over from making the skewers. I just chopped it up into little pieces with my little hand chopper. I decided to add in some coconut flakes. I just had them on hand. And then I added in some sliced almonds. Again, fluff that up with a fork. I decided to add in just a tiny little pinch of brown sugar. And yeah, this rice, especially with the chicken and the sauce, was so good. For my other side, I'm doing some sauteed bok choy. In this skillet, this is on medium heat. I've got a little bit of oil. Once that's hot, I'm going to add in some minced garlic as well as some minced or grated ginger. You can, of course, mince and grate your own garlic and ginger if you want. I'm using this stuff from the jar. I'm going to add in some crushed red pepper flakes. Give that a stir, and then just cook that for 30 seconds or a minute until it starts to become fragrant. It doesn't take very long at all. Now I'm going to add in the soy sauce, followed by a little bit of water. Give it a stir, and then add in the sesame oil. I believe the recipe said to add this at the end, but I decided to add it during the cooking process. Now I'm going to add in my bok choy. I just washed it really well and then sliced it into quarters. I find this at Kroger, Publix, and Target. I'm going to cover that with a lid and then cook that for about 8 to 10 minutes until it is tender and golden brown. Here are the plates. So we've got some of that rice, the chicken skewers off the skewer, of course, and then I garnished that with some sesame seeds, some sliced scallions, and then some chopped peanuts. And we've got the bok choy, and this dinner was delicious. This is so good. Like I said, I've made this a few times. We love it every single time I make it. It is yummy. Now, it's been a little while, maybe a couple years or so ago, but I saw Taylor Elmore, which if you're not following her, by the way, you absolutely should. I'll link her channel down in my description box below for you. But she made a hot honey barbecue chicken, and I followed that recipe, and we enjoyed it. But I had some of the Kinder's honey hot barbecue sauce, and so I decided to kind of do my own version of what she made. I didn't follow a recipe for this, but let me show you how I did this. I've got some chicken breasts in my crock pot. Now these were still mostly frozen. You could also do this with chicken thighs. To season these up, season it however you want. I've got just a little bit of my homemade barbecue rub seasoning, so I'm going to add the rest of that. I'll link the video where I shared that recipe in the description box below for you. And then this is the Kinder's Honey Hot Barbecue Sauce I was telling you about. I'm going to add that, and then that does have a little bit of a kick to it. I wasn't sure how big of a kick it would be once it cooled down, or cooked all the way rather, and so I just did a little drizzle of honey. If you don't mind heat, instead of just regular honey like I used, I would do a drizzle of like the Mike's Hot Honey. So I'm going to cover this with the lid, and then I cooked this on low for about 6 hours until the chicken was at least 165 degrees internal temperature and it was super tender. I shredded the chicken up, and then I placed it back into those juices in the crock pot to keep it warm while I finish up the rest of dinner. For one of the sides, I'm making a pea salad. Now, I have shared this before on my channel, but it's been a while. I wanted to share it again because it is one of mine and Gary's favorites. I make a couple different pea salad. This is more of a layered pea salad. I've made this for years and years. I got this recipe from an older lady when I worked at the bank. Her name was Miss Wanda. She gave this to me. She'd actually brought it in for like a potluck or something, and I asked her for the recipe. We love it. Now, I don't follow the recipe in terms of like how much lettuce to add and all that. I just kind of eyeball it over the years. In this bowl, I'm going to add in some romaine lettuce that's chopped. Then I'm going to add in some hard-boiled eggs that are sliced, followed by some frozen peas. I did let these defrost. Now, in this measuring cup here, I've got the dressing, and I do follow the recipe as far as measurements go for the dressing. This is mayonnaise, milk, sugar, a little salt and pepper. Give that a really, really good mix, and then pour that over your peas and smooth that out. Now, this is important how you layer it, with the lettuce at the bottom and the sauce more on the middle, or the dressing rather. Until you mix this up, the lettuce won't start to wilt. So once we've got that dressing spread out, I'm going to add some shredded cheese. Use the cheese of your choice. I'm using this triple cheddar, and then some cooked and crumbled bacon. You want to cover this with the lid and pop this into the fridge for a couple of hours. And like I said, until you go to mix it up, you don't have to worry about the lettuce getting all soggy. Give it a toss right before you're ready to serve it. And of course, you can add whatever vegetables you want, but this is simple. This is how Miss Wanda made it, and it is delicious, so I don't mess with perfection. And then another quick note, we like this with the dressing pretty well dressed, but if you don't want your salad quite as dressed, you saw I used 1 bag of romaine. I would do like a bag and a half, and it won't be as well dressed as this. But yeah, that's the pea salad. When I went over the meal plan with Gary, he asked if I could make some coleslaw so that he could put it on his sandwich. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I don't follow a recipe when I make coleslaw. I just eyeball it. Sorry, I can't give you measurements. And we like our coleslaw to be pretty fine. So I take the bag of coleslaw mix, that you can get at the grocery store already shredded. And then I like to take my hand chopper and just chop it up to where it's a little more fine for us. Now I'm going to add some mayonnaise, followed by salt and pepper, a little bit of sugar, and then give this a stir. And I cover this and place this into the refrigerator and let it set for 3 or 4 hours or so. Now, like I said, this is just how I make it. I know a lot of people do it differently. Some people add celery salt, vinegar, milk. You make it, or mustard, you make it however you like it. I just like it this way. It reminds me of KFC's coleslaw. I wanted some corn on the cob, so I cooked some up. I've shared recently how I do this. Just took some corn, removed the husk and the silk, cut it in half, rubbed it with olive oil, salt, pepper, cooked in the air fryer at 400 degrees for about 7 or 8 minutes until it starts to get golden brown and is tender. Now, these are the hamburger buns I'm using, not for any particular reason other than just it came in a 4-pack, and I knew we didn't need the 8-pack, so I'm going to toast those up. Here is my plate. Gary ate later than I did, and I didn't get a picture of his plate, but he had exactly the same thing. Just added some of the shredded chicken and a little of the honey hot barbecue sauce to the toasted buns. We've got the pea salad, the corn on the cob, and I got just a little bit of the coleslaw, and this was so good. Perfect summer dinner. For dinner the next night, I just did some quick fish tacos. I'm going to start out by doing some air fryer Mexican street corn. Here's everything that I'm using. I'm going to cook the corn up the same way I did the night before. Rub it with olive oil, salt, pepper in the air fryer. And then I'm going to make a mixture of mayonnaise, sour cream, minced garlic, lime juice, and cilantro, which I apologize was not pictured here. I'm going to give that a really good mix. And this is what the mixture looked like. After the corn is done, you're going to slather the corn in that mixture and then sprinkle on some chili powder and grated Parmesan or cotija cheese. That would be, more authentic, but all I had was Parmesan, so that's what I'm going to use. Now, for the fish tacos, I had this garlic herb tilapia in my freezer that I really needed to use up, and so I figured it wouldn't hurt in the tacos. And then I've got some fajita-sized flour tortillas. I know corn are more traditional with fish tacos. We prefer flour. I've got some chipotle ranch and then some of the leftover coleslaw. Now, I cooked the fish up in the air fryer and then just warmed up the tortillas, added the fish, added the coleslaw, some of that chipotle ranch. I did also add some diced tomatoes. And then we've got the Mexican street corn. This was a quick and easy little dinner. The next day was the 3rd of July, and so obviously, we had the 4th of July the next day, but it was also my dad's 60th birthday. He's a July 4th baby, and so on this day, my mom came over, and we were decorating and cooking and everything, and I wanted something really quick and easy for dinner that night. I made chicken salad. I didn't film me making it. It was just a couple cans of canned chicken. I drained it really well, and then mixed it with some mayonnaise, a tiny little bit of salt and pepper, some dry ranch dressing mix, some slivered almonds, sliced grapes, and some chopped apples, and I just let that hang out in the fridge for a couple hours. And I set out all kinds of goodies, that way we could just choose whatever we wanted. The chicken salad is in that metal bowl to the right. I've got some croissants, different chips, some wavy chips, scoop chips. We've got some fresh cantaloupe, fresh pineapple. Over on the left-hand side in that little bowl is some of the leftover coleslaw. We've got some of the Daisy French onion dip, and then in the plastic container with the red lid, this is some corn dip that I made. This is my cousin's recipe. I can put that down in the description box below for you all if you would like it. And then we've got some lettuce and tomato to go along. That's how Gary likes his chicken salad sandwiches, with a little lettuce, tomato, and cheese. Here's my plate. I've got some cantaloupe, some of the chips, and that Daisy French onion dip, which this was our first time having that dip, and we really liked it, by the way. And then I've got the chicken salad on a croissant, and we ended up, throughout the rest of the night, we just kind of munched on the different dips that I had, and that was dinner that night. Like I said, the next day was the 4th of July and my dad's birthday. I made what he requested. He wanted us to grill some hamburgers and hot dogs, so I did that. Set out buns and the condiments. He requested cowboy beans, which I have shared. I'll link that down below. We've got some lettuce, tomato, and onion for the burgers. I made my potato salad. I've shared this before. I will link that in the description box below for you. Made it the same way, except I used Miracle Whip instead of mayonnaise because Dad prefers Miracle Whip. My mom made the deviled eggs. Again, I've shared how we make that. Same thing, Mom used Miracle Whip instead of mayo. I made my Granny's pea salad, once again, with Miracle Whip instead of mayonnaise. And then my dad requested this broccoli slaw. I'll put the recipe in the description box below for you. I didn't film me making it. We just had way too much going on. But it was really easy. Basically, just bag broccoli slaw mix, some red onions, sliced almonds, craisins, and then a homemade dressing. So again, that'll be linked down below for you. Then I also set out a couple bags of chips, just barbecue and sour cream and onion from Walmart. Here is a picture of my plate. Everything was so good. And then, so it was really fun this day. Earlier in the day, my mom and my mom was already over at the house, but my dad and my siblings came over, and we started out by having like cheese, crackers, salami, pepperoni, all that. We ate that, visited, and then we ended up watching Independence Day. Then we had dinner, and then we did some s'mores outside. We had a little fire pit, and we were watching the fireworks and everything. My mom made my dad frog eye salad, and so that was kind of like his birthday cake treat. And we also had some cupcakes that I forgot to show. Those just we picked up from the grocery store. But yeah, we had a nice day celebrating my dad's birthday and the 4th of July. And that is it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you liked this video. You got some dinner ideas to try from it. If you did like it, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.